All right.
All right, Coach, how are
Hey,
you?
man. Good. How you guys doing?
Good. So
Good.
a week and a half into it, you guys just had your first scrimmage on Sunday. How would you assess your defense for the first 10 days or so?
I think we've made a lot of improvement since the end of spring. We're nowhere near where we need to be, but we've made a lot of improvement. We're trending in the right directions, and just got to keep grinding. These are the grind days, man. These are the grind days of camp. So many teams, you see dips in the grind days, and we've got to make sure that we don't dip. We got to make sure we keep going like that, keep trending in the right direction and getting better, and not let the camp blues get you, right? We got to fight through those camp blues, and understand the importance of growing and maturing and getting better and learning the system again, because we got new guys that haven't been here that long. So we've thrown a lot at them, and at the same time, we're trending in the right direction, but got a long way to go.
Ted, how do you talk about camp blues? How do you, as a coach, how do you guys avoid that? How do you avoid the inevitable dip in the middle of camp because maybe guys are starting to get a little worn out, tired? How do you kind of avoid that during camp?
Well, I think you get a couple things as a coach. You get what you demand, and you get what you reward. So we make a big deal out of championship training. We want everybody to when we watch it at night, and we're going through those plays. We got the good, the bad, and the ugly. And I want to be on that good. I want to be on that good cut up, and just make a big deal out of that, and then show them clips about how that helps you win, and it all correlates to winning. And once they understand how something correlates to winning, I think you get a lot of buy-in, because everybody wants to win, but are you willing to do the things and sacrifice the things that you have to do, such as comfort, in order to do that? Because it's hard to win.
Coach Malzahn talked about the penalties
Yep.
in the scrimmage. How do you coach those out, and what have you been doing this week?
Well, we give people reminders that that's not acceptable. We make big deals, and we also show how it impacts drives. Like a penalty on an offsides on 3rd and 6 takes it to 3rd and 1. 3rd and 1 takes it to a conversion, and then they drive it down and get points out of it. So I mean, it all it all goes together. It's all connected, and just making them understand the importance of that, and then creating the discipline with our daily practice habits that how we're gonna do this, and what we're gonna do, what we're not gonna do, what we're gonna accept, what we're not gonna accept. Because even sometimes out there things don't get called, but at the same time, as coaches, we got to bring them up, say, hey, that could get called. That's a penalty. So, and at the same time, you don't want to lose your edge. You don't want to you don't want guys playing scared to make a mistake or scared. But the pre-snap penalties are that can't happen. That's unacceptable. That's just lack of mental discipline.
During media day, Malachi Lawrence said he thinks he could be a double-digit sack guy. What do you see in his game that thinks you think might lead to that?
He's done a great job. He's explosive, and he understands the tackle set, the tackle's pads, how soft, how it turn, what's hard, all those things, the depth of the set. So he does a good job understanding that, and then he understands how to attack it. And Coach Ingram has done a good job with him, teaching him how to do that. But he's got a lot of natural ability and a lot of natural want to, and at the same time, it's a blending of he and Coach Ingram together. And he's a guy that's been going in the right direction as well. And for us, he's got to have a good year. He's one of those guys that's got to have a good year for us. Yeah.
Coach mentioned that the defensive line.
Did you talk about John Walker? Is that what you're talking about? Have you seen how fat he is? Oh, hey, John. What's going on? What's going on? No, he was back there doing all this stuff, so that's why I said that. Anyway, he thinks he's funny, but go ahead.
He is a part of the defensive line. So kind of talk about the defensive line on Saturday and these first 2 weeks of camp.
Well, again, right now we've got, especially inside, we've got some competitive depth. And, it's great to have that so you can roll guys. So that way you're getting, if guys are playing, if there's an 80-snap ball game and guys are playing 40 snaps apiece, that's a lot different than somebody playing 70 snaps and 10 snaps. Because, again, I go back to one of the things I've talked about a lot is winning your close ball games, your one-possession games, and you've got to be able to execute and function at the end of the game, and to have fresh people at the end of a game certainly helps and increases your chance to perform and execute and strain, because the fight that those guys get on a play-to-play basis, there's a lot of fighting going on in the trenches, every single play, when especially guys that are playing double teams and things of that nature. I mean, it takes its toll. So, thankfully, and we've got some competitive depth, and I think that, you know, Coach Martin has done a good job of bringing those guys along and getting everybody, you know, on the same page and getting everybody ready to play.
Coach, you just talked about Malachi Lawrence, the other DN spot, whoever it is, it's going to be a transfer or maybe a freshman that, you know, didn't play a lot last year. So what are you seeing the competition there, and has anyone started to emerge?
I've seen a lot of great competition, and that's the thing, man. You know, that's the thing that brings out the best in everybody is competition, and because nobody's on lockdown right now. Where this is it. Everybody's competing, and you know, even when there's spots where there's not a lot of depth, you got to compete with yourself every day to make yourself better. So competition is an overriding theme of how we grow and develop, you know, on defense and in life for that matter. So yeah, it's been good. It's been good, and there's a lot of candidates, and you know, there's a long way to go. You know, well, we had 8 practices. Is that what it's been? Yeah. So there's a lot of meat left on the bone.
How much of the success that the D-line had Sunday do you attribute to kind of the experience that that group possesses from the amount of college football they've played, and how much do you attribute to what the understanding they have of what you want in your defense?
Some of both. You know, we've got, like you said, we've got some guys that have a lot of experience, and you know, the old adage, there is no substitute for experience. That's right. You know, guys that have been there and understand like what it feels like to win a college football game when it's a grind and everybody's got to go. You know, one of those games. So it's great to have that, so that way they can lean on that experience when they get to those zones where like they get gassed, okay, to be able to push through it and know that's going to help us again continue to develop depth. It's going to help them be a better player. It's going to help us be a better defense, which helps us be a better football team, and how it all correlates to winning. And what was the second part of the question?
The understanding of your scheme and kind of responsibilities that you want out of them.
Gotcha. Yeah, that's a good point. You know, we've thrown a lot at them so far in camp. So that part, there's a lot of growth, and now it's to the point where there's like maybe a little oversaturation, but that's by design. And you know, to go back to okay, what are we foundationally? You know, so that way, if it's these 5 or 6 things, this is who we are. This is what we can do. This is what we can execute, play versus anything, as opposed to a little of this, a little of that, a little of this, a little of that. So, you know, to have a foundation and a base, because that's critical.
Like you said, it's practice 8 for you guys. How would you evaluate the communication between the coaches and the players, and also the players on the defense?
I think it's been good. I think it's been clear. It's been consistent, and you know, like anything else, we always want to get better at it. But you know, I think we're again moving in a good direction. But as coaches, we got to make sure that happens, because communication is such a critical part defensively of putting a defense on the field that can execute efficiently.
Ted, you guys have a unique position in the linebacker group where it's all new faces. These guys have not been here before. They're transfers. What have you seen from that group, and how have they maybe worked well together to try to build up maybe that? You mentioned the communication part.
Yeah, you know, that's a great question, because now, you know, in this what we'll call the new age of college football, you know, these guys they don't come up through the ranks with each other. I mean, when you start talking about transfers, and to be able to get to know each other, hear each other's story, get to know each other as a much greater depth than just number 3 or number 32. Like there's just got to be a lot more connection, and there has to be intentionality behind that connection. Just to assume as a coach that's going to happen, that's not true. But the best teams that I have been around have been the most connected. So to spend time making sure that happens, and your players have to buy in and have to do it. You know, but there's got to be intentionality, because just to assume or take anything for granted that it's going to happen because guys are in the same locker room or the same hull or whatever, no, you can't assume that. As a coach, you know, we take nothing for granted.
Coach, after 8 days of practice, has any player stood out either from a performance or leadership standpoint, or a couple guys, or who's doing well so
Yeah,
far?
there's been a couple guys that have done that, and there's been a lot of guys that have done it here for some days, and then some other guys were here. Then there's a shift and back and forth. But I've been pleased with our group. I've been pleased with our group. Not to be confused, not to be confused with we've arrived, because we certainly haven't. But we're making some strides and steps in the right direction, and just overall just continuing to build, and like the competitive depth and guys being able to execute no matter what the temperature is or humidity or who we're playing, where we're playing, whatever, just because that's the standard.
Coming off that first scrimmage, what are your biggest points of emphasis going into a second scrimmage?
Okay, eliminate those penalties, eliminate those pre-snap penalties, because again, that's lack of discipline, and as coaches, we have to own that. And as players, they've got to own that. So we've got to own it together. But the pre-snap penalties, those are things that, like, there's no, other than lack of mental discipline, which is the coach's responsibility to put a disciplined product out there. All right, that's what we got to eliminate, the pre-snap penalties.
Is that pretty typical for a first scrimmage, though, to have those sorts of?
That was high. That was high. You know, that was high. Yeah.
Couple more?
And this is obviously the first fall camp where you're able to communicate with one of the players. How have you adjusted to that, and what's that going?
Well, that's something we're continuing to work through, you know, getting used to. Some days we use it, okay, and some days we don't, because, again, I don't want to be in their ear all the time. I want them to be able to learn, you know, on their own through doing, and like, what happens if it goes out? Okay, so now what? You know, so the players take ownership, and at the same time, you know, from a technology, you know, an advantage standpoint, to be able to talk sometimes to them and things of that nature. But, you know, it's been on and off as far as how we've used that. But again, because we got to train them for both scenarios. But I like it.
Has there been anybody in the secondary that's really caught your eye, especially in these last 2 weeks?
There's been a few people, but you know, I've been pleased with our corners play. They've been, you know, been challenged a lot, and our safeties are becoming better tacklers. So you know, pleased with those two groups, and also the communication has certainly improved with our safeties. So you know, that's been good.
Thanks, Coach.
Appreciate it.
You got it.
Thanks,
Yeah,
Coach.
certainly.
John Walker up next.